Question number 1. Last year, Melrose conducted a DEI climate study with a focus on racial justice. High levels results indicated the following. Black people had lower agreement than white people, than they feel a sense of belonging in Melrose, feel that they can be their full, authentic self in Melrose, feel comfortable interacting with Melrose institutions, especially City Hall, including the mayor's office, clerk, building department, and treasurer, the Melrose Public Schools, and the Melrose Housing Authority. We have federal, state, and now local data indicating these disparities. What are your plans for addressing and working to resolve these disparities in experiences for people of color in Melrose? Please be specific, i.e., please speak to programs, policies, and budgets. And now I'm going to call the at-large candidates. Starting with John Orlandella.
Hello. This first question hits a little, it hit a little close to me. Literally the first day I said that I was going to run for city council. I was speaking with a friend who is a person of color in the city of Melrose. And we were having a really good conversation, as we would normally do at various, our boys are the same age, so they were playing sports together. And we're, as you do at a day when there's downtime between games, we're talking, and he, his experiences as a person of color in the city are radically different than mine. And at first, that first reaction is, no, that can't be. And then you listen to him talk, and you listen to the experiences that him and his children had or have had going through, local community stuff, schools, just Melrose, the Melrose community in general. And it really hit. That was the first thing that really hit me in my listening phase early on. And what it made me realize is that I think one of the things that we may be losing sight on is, and the study shows it, right, is that, and it's the study at all levels, is I think we may be trying to solve the problem before we've listened to the actual full question and heart of the matter. And I think we got pieces of the whole, but it's not there in completion. And that's a thing that I really, it was like a day one thing for me, because I want to listen. I think, if we have budget for it, it doesn't take any budget to listen. It doesn't take any budget to go and sit, in a community forum like this, or go, speak with a parent who says that out loud and just ask, what are they feeling? And because no policy adjustments will work if it's just a group of people who are guessing at what they think is the right answer. And I think that is the heart of where I really want to lead it, is understand that question completely, so that when we start putting policies in place and adjusting policies or allocating budget, we're putting it in the right direction, and we're not wasting time and or resources to solve a problem that isn't going away tomorrow. And the sooner we get to it, and the sooner we get to that end, the better off we are as a community. And 3 minutes. I'll take my 3 minutes, and move on.
Thank you. Same question, of course, for the next candidate, Maya Jamaluddin.
Jamaluddin. Thank you, Diana. Let me start by saying I didn't wait for these results or data to know how Black people and other people of color feel about being their full selves in our city, or how comfortable they feel about interacting with City Hall, Melrose Public School, and other public institutions. You only have to look at our budget to know how much we care about investing in or uplifting Black people and other people of color. Not to mention the calls that I receive on a daily basis, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, from people of color and other marginalized constituents and non-constituents regarding a myriad of discriminatory experiences or treatments that they are experiencing in various public institutions in our city. Therefore, the results were not a surprise, but still disappointing. And for those who were surprised by the results, let me tell you, our Black students and families are still being called the N-word, and yet still getting suspended and blamed for how they react to that. As an elected official, I will continue to be committed to supporting every marginalized person in or out of Melrose, and most importantly, Black people. First, our discrimination policy in school is not transparent. It is in fact very exclusive and mostly crafted to protect white students. I will push to revise this policy. I will push for trauma-informed and trauma-responsive training so that we educate ourselves of how to deal with folks with trauma during difficult situations. I will continue to ask that all resources in City Hall and in our departments, different departments, to be translated to be more accessible. Moreover, I will continue to hold ourselves and department heads and mayor, our next mayor, accountable and urge them to find resources that are specifically to serve Black folks and marginalized population as well. I will be asking our HR and department heads to review their policies with a DEI lens to see why Black and marginalized folks are unable to fit in this culture that we formed and crafted within our community and departments. I hope to be able to accomplish all this with everyone else's help. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Christopher Sullivan.
Yes, good afternoon. I should say good evening, everybody. I want to thank the organizers for this event first, and let's address the question about what can we do to address some of the disparities of people in color in Melrose, particularly as it relates to how they connect with city government. I'd like to approach it from my own personal experiences in terms of my personal skills. I'm an attorney by trade, and when I was a younger man, I was in Washington, D.C. I worked as part of my legal training with 2 groups. One was called the Center for National Policy Review, and the other one was the Committee Against Discrimination in Housing. These 2 groups were advocacy groups that worked at the national level with different administrations in terms of formulating federal policy in both the workplace and with respect to housing. And when I worked with them, I really got a good understanding as to the best way to approach racism and to approach this issue by the way of education. It's the best way that I can see us in Melrose being able to address this. And what do I mean by that? The question was very pointed and said, what are your specific plans? And my specific plan would be to lean on what I've learned in private practice. I've represented individuals in discrimination cases based on race, on sex, gender, pregnancy, age, disability. And in those cases where I've represented plaintiffs like that, when there's a settlement, particularly if it involves an institutional defendant, a large employer, for example, a municipality, a number of times what you'll find either by a voluntary agreement of the parties or through the MCAD, the Mass Commission Against Discrimination, which is the state agency that handles all discrimination complaints in the employment setting, is that they would put together a requirement for in-depth racial training programs and seminars and racial sensitivity seminars. Now, I know the mayor had asked, and Melrose put together the DEI task force that we've been talking about. And when I looked at it, when I read it over carefully, it had recommendations for such training. I don't know if they were implemented this year or not. I certainly haven't seen the syllabus for it or been a part of it. But what I would like to do, if I was lucky enough to be elected to the city council, is to work with the city solicitor, and to work on the specifics of those trainings and seminars, how often they're going to be held, what is the content, because I think if we start there at the city level, which I applaud, the mayor and the administration for putting that task force report together, and to implement it is their first real step. Because if people of color feel more comfortable coming to City Hall, coming to the city council, coming for any type of city municipal services, that's a huge first step, I think, in being able to address the issue.
That's 3 minutes. Sorry.
I'm sorry, 10 seconds?
Or yeah, if you could wrap up, please. Thank you.
Sure. I think that would be a concrete way that we could address it. And that's something that I could bring my own skills in training to. And I think that would have a real impact on Melrose in addressing this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ryan Williams.
Hi, thanks so much. So, when I think about this question, I think about comfort level. People don't feel comfortable in communities and spaces that don't welcome and reflect them. And so, as city councilors, what we do in the chamber is we pass budgets, we pass ordinances, but there's a huge opportunity for us, and a number of us who are on the council now take advantage of this, to advocate both inside the council chamber and outside of the council chambers to normalize, welcome, and to support people of color. And that could take place in the context of a city event, and using your privileged position as a city councilor to ask, what are we doing with this event to bring in people of color, make them feel comfortable, to have specific aspects of the event that are tailored to a certain community, whether that's a community, a specific community of immigrants, or it's a community of faith, or it's a community that's bound together by other means. There's always opportunities for us to do this. We can ask our city departments and ask our contractors, ask them how many of these business contracts that we're dealing with are being executed by people of color. So I'm from Chicago, and in Chicago and Cook County, we have something called the Women and Minority-Owned Business Enterprise Program. And it mandates that a specific percentage of funds spent on contracts from city departments go to those entities. This program is not flawless, but it's a good start. And it gets people thinking about whether or not they could be using this as a metric in their outreach to contractors. We need to facilitate a more coordinated approach between the racial justice advocates, the Melrose arts community, the Melrose Metco community, and the Melrose departments across the city. This room is full of people who are doing this work every day and are the best source of information that the city government has at its fingertips for what to do. And we need to invite you more into the council chamber and into the mayor's office and listen and work together constructively to come up with plans. So I asked myself, what can I do to be effective? As a white person, and particularly as a white man, I'm a little shackled by my perspective, right? I have to go outside my perspective in order to really understand what people are going through. And that's why it's really important for me to listen as much as I can. And for other elected officials to listen openly. You have to welcome criticism. You have to understand that, we're part of a racist system, but that doesn't mean we can't empathize with the victims of racism and learn from their perspective and listen for ways that we can improve. And thanks to the work of this group, We, I think, have a foothold to elect the right people to build a coalition who can work with you and bring you in to take action on these issues. Can I ask, how much time do I have left?
6 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Edward O'Connell.
First of all, thank you all for providing us the opportunity to discuss these issues tonight. And thank you particularly, Ms. Rocha, for leading our discussion. I have a number of thoughts and ideas in response to the question and to the findings of the DI climate study, but in the interest of time, I'll focus on two tonight. First, from a community culture standpoint, I would and will, as a city councilor, encourage local cultural institutions and organizations in partnership with our city government and our schools, and with appropriate sustained investment of city finances and other municipal resources, to develop a coordinated and ongoing annual slate of cultural programs, events, and community-wide enrichment activities to celebrate the history and the contemporary lives of people and people of color, and members of other historically and currently marginalized communities, be they based on race, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, personal identity, ability, or otherwise. I see this as a means of civic action and engagement through visual and performing arts, speaker series, panel discussions, interactive activities, workshops, and more. Community building, civic engagement, and civic action writ large. And acting intentionally, I think we can broaden and deepen our collective cultural awareness, educating ourselves as a community about cultural differences, and discovering and facilitating ways to bridge those differences. Importantly, this kind of city-led effort would elevate our profile and reputation as a community attractive to people of color and others because of our commitment to actually being a sustainable multicultural community. If we want a more diverse community, in my opinion, diverse people need to know we're here and what we're about. With regard to people's interactions with city government and our schools, and this is not a new issue to me as a city member of the school committee, I think we have to make a serious, substantial, and sustained investment in recruiting and retaining people of color and members of other marginalized communities to work as city employees and teachers here in Melrose. For people of color and others, young, old, and otherwise, to actually see their identities reflected in City Hall and in our classrooms. That is the key to this issue. And I think we need specialized roles within our city and school HR departments dedicated exclusively to this task. We also clearly need to retain the services of an expert who can both train this staff and facilitate our outreach into communities of color and beyond. At this point, I think we've established that we can't do this on our own successfully. We clearly need some help to get this moving. And just as clearly, this work is going to take a serious financial commitment and a serious policy commitment that I, as a city councilor, will advocate and support. Our local government should be leading and not following on these issues, and I'm prepared to work with my fellow city councilors, our school committee, and our new mayor to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maria Berardi.
Hello, how are you? I grew up in Melrose, and the MECOS program started when I was in 2nd grade. And I really didn't see many problems, and we were children just playing with each other. We were all the same. It's really sad to hear that some people are still closed-minded and have not the greatest intention. I live in a diverse neighborhood and everyone seems to get along. There was a problem with my neighbor who lives upstairs with me and a neighbor across the street. When they moved in, they started giving the people upstairs from me a hard time. I wasn't there, but someone brought it to my attention and I made sure to call that landlord and have that woman put an end to it, so that these people would feel welcome. They should feel welcome. They have an apartment in Melrose and they should live peacefully. Within government, I'm not quite sure what could be done. It's really sad that, you know, here we are almost 2024 and there are such differences in opinions. It starts at home, you know, to teach people to accept. My daughter never had a problem with anybody. I honestly don't know, but I look forward to rectifying this matter. And
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Michael Lyle?
Not attending.
We are going to Lila McLearelli now.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you for first for this question, for holding this forum. I've had the great opportunity to attend and participate in the Racial Justice Community Coalition's monthly meetings over the past few years. So I'm happy to see this opportunity to ask candidates questions come to fruition. As the second person of color ever to serve on the Melrose City Council, and the first being only in 2017, racism and topics of diversity, equity, inclusion are not just theoretical topics, but part of my lived experience. As a brown biracial woman and a daughter of an immigrant, I know firsthand what it's like to feel like you don't belong or to feel like you can't be your authentic self in your own community. At the same time, I do want to name the privilege that I hold as a biracial woman and acknowledge that my personal experiences may be very different from those of my friends and neighbors who are also people of color, whether they be Black, Latinx, Asian, or Indigenous people. In terms of my service to the community, as a member of the Human Rights Commission for several years and then a city councilor since 2020, I have pushed vigorously for the administration to address what I feel has been a longstanding neglect of issues around race and racism in this city. As a city councilor, I first strongly advocated for the mayor to invest a portion of free cash into DEI training and consultant work, and the study cited here was a result of that advocacy. I've also pushed for more robust employee training, which I feel like is a bare minimum, so that our city staff are equipped with the language and knowledge about how to work with and serve a public that is increasingly diverse. We still haven't gotten there yet. Overall, as I've mentioned, I feel like we've only scratched the surface. And while as a city councilor, I do not have the authority to spend from budgets, I do have the ability to advocate to the mayor for programs and services, and conversely vote no on spending for programs and services that may do harm or adversely affect marginalized populations in Melrose. For budgets, I want folks to keep in mind that we need 8 votes to pass or block budgets. So it's really important to listen to everyone tonight and over the next 7 weeks to see where they stand on these issues. For me, I pledge to work with the new mayor to continue to address these issues, dedicate financial resources and staff time to tackle this important topic of belonging and inclusivity for members of marginalized populations and people of color, because I know this experience firsthand. Thank you.
Thank you.